And of course, that song has been around for decades. It's one of the best songs ever. And today's guest knows all about that song because him and his teammates just celebrated their first Class S championship. It was the 21st in the history of that storied football program. And he's the Maxpreps Connecticut State Player of the Year. He's coaches All State, All MVL. Tremendous athlete, tremendous football player. It is my honor to introduce to you number 3 for the Ansonia Chargers, state champion Ansonia Chargers, David Cassetti. And David, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, David, before we talk about the big victory the other day, how did the love for football begin for you? Because you've been playing since you were a little kid. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I'd say the love of football started when I was 8. Signing up for flag football. My parents, they made me sign up. I also did boxing. I started off doing boxing around the same time I started football. I don't know. It really just came out of nowhere. It just happened.
Right. So let me ask you. You were on some very good teams in Pop Warner. I know. You guys, in fact, made the championship game a couple times. Just talk about that run in Pop Warner, because you guys were very successful, and that whole group has kind of stayed together, which I think was really key to winning this championship this year.
Yeah, definitely. 2018, it was my 8th grade year, our 8th grade year for most of the seniors on this year's team in high school. We had about, I want to say, 14 players on the team. We had a very small team, but we all stuck together. Like, we knew we had probably one of the smallest teams in probably Pop Warner, like, players wise. We made it through the Southern Connecticut Pop Warner Championship, and all the way to the state championship, where we got kicked off the field because we apparently we started the game and everything, but we ended up just getting kicked off the field because I don't know, out of nowhere they just ended the game. We didn't have the right amount of kids on the team to eligible to play.
Right. And let me ask you, David, I've always asked each kid who's continued their football career, it's a big commitment at a young age to be playing football. When you're 9, 10 years old, your summer's going to kind of end August 1st because you got to go to practice every day. I mean, was that difficult for you in the beginning, giving up summers like that, or did you just have the love for the game that you wanted to be out there all the time?
No, I've had the love for the game. I was always hyped for August 1st to hit, for the first practice. Even the clinics. The clinics were also I looked forward to doing them throughout the summer and with other kids. And it was just, I was looking forward to it.
Right. And what positions did you play when you started out in Pop Warner? I mean, did you pretty much play running back? Did you play a little quarterback? How did that work?
Yeah. I started off Pop Warner playing running back my first year of tackle. And then I ended up playing quarterback for a few years and ended up giving that up because I wanted to play defense, and they didn't really let me play defense. So I just switched to the defensive side of the ball and also made it work on offense, playing running back, fullback. And towards the end of my Pop Warner career, I played a little receiver and mainly linebacker.
Right. And let me ask you, David, I mean, over the course of your Pop Warner, I mean, did you play for different coaches? Did you have one coach staff that you particularly played for most of the time, or how did that work? Who were some of the coaches you played for?
Yeah, some of the coaches started off with Coach Steve Sobolewski. He was my first ever youth coach. He coached me, Chris Kaminsky, Alex Romanowski. We started with him and his son Jake. We've all grew up together since 3rd grade playing football, and he really he really introduced me to tackle football and made it really fun. And as I got older, Coach Hoss, Coach Shane, Coach Frankie, 14U. Those were probably my best years of Pop Warner, because getting to that winning season, we never really had a winning season before that. So them bringing us and putting us in a good position to win and have a winning season and compete in championships, it was really good, really fun.
And the guys you mentioned as well, I mean, they were very good players for Ansonia in their career. Coach Soldra, Coach Edmonds, those guys, I think even Coach Douglas played or coached you for a little bit in
Yeah,
Pop Warner as well. He was a tremendous athlete, very good quarterback. And so, I mean, these guys knew about Ansonia football. They knew, what was needed to win, and they knew the type of work that had to go into it. So that had to be great for kids like you guys because you played for guys who knew what the winning tradition was like in Ansonia.
yeah, definitely. Um, they really they knew all I'm pretty sure Coach Hoss played in high school. Um, and they knew all about the Ansonia winning tradition, and they tried to bring it to the Pop Warner and introduce it to us before we head to high school, which was really really awesome.
Right. And the thing I've always said, David, is that Pop Warner is great because really, when you get to high school, the coaches can't really focus a lot on teaching you the fundamentals. They've got to really prepare for the games. They've got to get right into the team offense, team defense, special teams. But in Pop Warner, they really spend a great deal of time teaching you fundamentals, form tackling, form blocking, stuff like that. So I really think it's important for any kid who really wants to have a good football career that they play Pop Warner at some point in their life.
Yeah, it definitely is important. Starting off, if you start your football journey in high school, you're gonna be a little late to unless certain things, but getting the feel of playing and everything. I think Pop Warner is really important, growing up.
Right. And the thing is, too, David, I mean, football is what, most people familiarize with you. But I mean, as a kid, you were a very good baseball player, if I remember correctly. You played in a lot of travel leagues. I mean, you were a tremendous baseball player. Talk about your baseball career a little bit, because I mean, you were, just as good in that sport as you were football.
Yeah. Growing up, I would say baseball was my main sport for until I hit seventh grade. Baseball was really my main sport. Playing in little league, it was so much fun. Winning championships too, little league. Playing for Mudcats Travel, who are probably I think the boys of summer now. I stopped playing that in I want to say sixth grade, but building bonds and building friendships with kids from other towns playing travel, Seymour kid in Dresdick. I played with him. Who else? A few other Seymour kids. Just growing up, I really enjoyed playing baseball, and I ended up falling in love more with football. But and
Right.
yeah, I also I tried baseball coming into high school. I didn't try baseball. I played basketball my first 2 years at Emmett before I transferred to Ansonia. Played basketball, yeah. And then I tried baseball last season, and ended up stopping because I just wanted to focus on football and training, which obviously, it was my decision. People respected it, and yeah.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up basketball because, again, you're a very good basketball player as well. But let me ask you this, because I've always been curious. I mean, when you play for Emmett O'Brien, you're playing tech schools, you're going to go all over the state. So talk about those bus rides. I mean, playing those late games, traveling like that. While it had to be fun because you're a kid, at the
Yeah.
same time, I mean, you had to be exhausted at times.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I had some really fun times playing. I think it was my last season. It was my sophomore year. We went up to Prince Tech in Hartford for a state game. Um, we got beat pretty bad, but the bus ride was it was really long. We got back late, but I had some fun times with some really good teammates there.
Right. So, David, let me ask you, as you got more advanced in Pop Warner, I mean, did you become confident in yourself that you could be a good high school football player? I mean, did you have faith that the years of playing Pop Warner and the improvement you made every year that you could be a force in high school football? I don't think you probably believed you could have the type of career that you had, which we're going to get
The
to. But I mean,
experience and
yeah,
huh?
but you had to feel good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Knowing a lot about the game and having love for the game really motivated me, and brought to my mind saying I can be really good in high school. But I really started to notice like changes in myself once I started getting stronger and everything. Um, Once I started in the weight room, I knew I could really be a force in high school. Freshman year I didn't really weightlift. The beginning of sophomore year I started, and it's really helped me a lot.
Right. And talk about weightlifting, David, because the NBL is very big with the weightlifting program. They have a lot of competitions every year. And how important is it? Because, I mean, each year, the other teams, they're going to get bigger, they're going to get stronger. So it's really important that kids are in the weight room in the off season.
Yeah, the weight room is definitely important. Coming into last season, my junior year, we had a very like small weightlifting program because COVID, obviously, social distancing. It was like coach was taking like certain precautions, and it was really hard for us to like bond and like lift in the weight room. So we had to do a lot of stuff on our own, and it was harder for some kids, obviously. So we just tried to make something happen, and we just really went into the season like not to our best like potential last season, but this off season, before the season, we really hit it hard in the weight room. Brand new weight room, beautiful. Thanks to our superintendent, coaches, they really helped us, and our strength coaches here, Coach Johnson.
Right. And David, one of the things that kind of hurt you and it hurt a lot of your teammates and kids all over the state was the COVID season where there was no football season. So you're entering your sophomore year, and that's an important year for anybody, as far as football, basketball, whatever they play, that's your learning year. And you guys missed that year. So, I mean, how tough was that for you not being able to be on the field that year?
Yeah, it was really tough. It was a bummer when the CIC canceled the season, but and then they were kind of like playing around with us, saying like we'll have a season in the spring, whatever, 6 games. But it was really a bummer because I didn't touch a high school football field until last September, so missing that year, and I was also at the time. It really like missing that year really like put into my mind like I may due to like this position I'm in, I may really have to transfer to like a different school.
Right. So, David, I mean, you understood the tradition of Ansonia football. You played Pop Warner, and I know those coaches talked to you guys a lot about the winning success that Ansonia's had. But I mean, when you got on that field as a junior, I mean, did you realize how important the tradition was for Ansonia football? And, I mean, it's got to give you a shot of pride when you put on that uniform week in and week out.
Yeah, wearing the Ansonia uniform really like for the first time it gave me goosebumps. The first time I wore it was at a Shelton scrimmage last year, and it was we got beat pretty bad. I knew we were a really young team last year, and obviously the pride and like the pride's there. I knew about the pride coming into the season. I grew up around Ansonia football, uh, but just last season, I mean, we were a really young team, so I feel like not a lot of us like were like really ready for
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your junior season because I mean, you guys started the year 9-0. I mean, and I mean there were some tough games, but this team, one thing your class, the class before you, one thing that I always saw when I watched you guys play is this team never gave up, even when times were tough, even when you guys were behind. And we're going to talk about this year in a second. But I mean, talk about your junior year because again, it was your first time on the football field as a varsity player. And I mean, you had a tremendous season, and the team finished 10-2. So I mean, it was a great year. I know in Ansonia sometimes if you don't win a championship, people might look at it as a bad year. But when you win 10 games, I don't care. That's a tremendous year. So talk about your junior year a little bit.
yeah. Our junior year really, I feel like it was really rushed. It was really rushed, and we didn't. Not everyone on the team really like gelled together and bonded together as this year's team is like bonded. Um, we really, personally, I really just did whatever the coaches told me to do. I came to the year thinking I was going to play receiver since I played that and I was pretty good at it. My last year at Pop Warner's, and I ended up playing fullback, so I did whatever the coaches told me to do. It was really like um, gaining experience was really important for me and the younger guys coming into this season we just had. So I would say it was like a good learning point. It was all right. It was a good season.
Right. And I mean, talk about some of the tough games early on in that season because, I know early on I think Woodland was kind of tough. You guys pulled away, but they were tough that junior year. And then, of course, Holy Cross is always a pain. They're very tough. They give you a hard time. And I mean, the Thanksgiving game wasn't the way you wanted it to turn out. But I'll tell you what, when Naugatuck and Ansonia are both good, I don't know if there's a better rivalry on Thanksgiving than that one, because that was a tremendous game that year.
Yeah. Besides those games you mentioned, I would say like a really wake up call for us. My junior year was, I think it was week 2, the Oxford game. It was a close game going to the third quarter, and like we were all shocked because like looking at the past, Oxford really hasn't really handled Ansonia, so we really had to wake up after that. We came into Holy Cross pumped up. Everyone thought that they were like the team to beat that year, and we ended up. Coach was fired up that we beat them, and he was just proud of us because we were a really young team at the time. Besides having like McKnight and a few linemen, but we were a really young team. And then Thanksgiving, I don't really have nothing really to say about last year of Thanksgiving. Uh, and then the Cromwell loss, nothing really to say.
Right. But you know what? I think the thing of it is, though, David, sometimes when you lose games like that, it just makes you go into the next season hungrier because, you kind of tend to remember the losses sometimes more than the wins. So I think that group of kids, your senior class especially, went into that off season saying, we don't want to do this again. We want to win a state championship.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I just dozed off.
That's okay. No problem.
Yeah, coming to the season, that those losses last season really motivated us. The ones that really stuck with us was Naugatuck and Cromwell. Definitely mostly Naugatuck. Coach emphasized this year, like if we lost to Naugatuck and won a state title, this season still would have felt like, not really all that. We really wanted the Naugatuck win this year. We really think we needed it in order for us, like our momentum to be big in the playoffs.
Right. And you talk about the coaches, David. Coach Bracke's been there, I think, 16 or 17 years now. And then I think of Coach Sponheimer and Coach Lisi, who have been there since the 70s. And I mean, these guys have been coaching forever. So, I mean, you get like all that knowledge of coaching. Then you got the other guys as well who do a great job. There's Kingsley, I think Mancini, and I'm missing a couple other guys. But I mean, just talk about the coaching staff and the work they put in all the time and a great job they do.
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for the coaching staff at Ansonia. They really like stuck with us junior year, and coming into this season, they had high hopes for us. They knew that we put in all this hard work, and they set up a game plan and like coaching to like coach us to our potential for us to be great. Like we knew we had the potential to be great this season, and they believed in us. We believed in them mostly, and we really got it done.
So talk to me a little bit though about on an individual level. How did you feel you did your junior year? You had a tremendous year. I know the outcome in some of the games, like you just mentioned, weren't how you liked, but I mean, did you finish that season with the attitude, on an individual sense, I had a great year? And did you feel like, you really were confident going into your senior year?
Yeah, I think my junior year, I did my job on offense. Playing fullback, I did what I had to do. Um, Getting experience of playing high school was really important. I think I had a better year playing linebacker last year. Playing on defense, and coming into this year, or at the end of last season, I didn't really think of myself having like a great season. I was just focused on the season coming up, like saying it's our year. Like we're gonna put in the work. We're gonna win.
Right. So, David, let me ask you. I mean, talk to me about some of the teammates that you mentioned a few of them earlier, but like talk to me about the guys, especially the senior class, and some of the guys that you've played with over the years and what they've meant to you. Because this is a tight knit group that has been around together for a long time, and I think that's always important because when you guys have that bond and that friendship, it's a great. You just know you're going to do great things on the field.
Yeah. I'm gonna start off with our captain. So Chris Kaminsky. He was our vocal leader this year and leader on the field. Also, he stepped up big time in big games, Holy Cross, playoffs, and like other games. Like he stepped up. he's the one he gets us fired up before every game, just like with his speeches and everything. Like he's been a tremendous leader, and I couldn't ask for like a better leader on this team. Neither could any of the coaches. And then with Alex, he's been a force on the field, like playing in the trenches. He's been a tremendous lineman. He's without him, I'm nothing. You know, he's such a great lineman and a great teammate to have.
Right. And I mean, that's important because I mean, everybody picks each other up. When somebody might make a mistake, the other one's going to pick that person up. And they're not going to, you guys don't get down on each other. You guys know that there's going to be mistakes in the games, but you just got to keep playing. You got to play through it and forget about the last play and just go on to the next play. And I really believe this is why you guys were successful. And if you think about it, David, let's talk now about senior year. I know you guys went 13-0, but if people didn't watch these games, they would think you guys coasted. This was probably the toughest year of Ansonia football to win a state title because there were quite a few games you guys trailed at the half, but it was like the second half came and you guys took off. And I mean, I can't remember a time where you guys gave up maybe more than 6 points in the second half after being behind in the first half.
Yeah. I would say definitely like this year, like with our class and for other schools, it was a really tough year. A lot of tremendous athletes out there, whether it's on Holy Cross, Bloomfield, Woodland has good athletes. Like there's a lot of teams with good athletes, and for us, like we just have the mindset of like not falling apart as most teams would do after they go down like 14-0 or something. Um, we just stuck together and never like we didn't think negatively, and we just didn't fall apart. We just kept playing and playing and like yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about the Holy Cross game because at the half, it really looked like Holy Cross was going to win the game. I mean, they had a tremendous first half, but you guys came out in that second half, and I mean, you never looked back. I mean, you really turned it on, and that was a tremendous victory. And I always look at that game as the big win of the season because that was the first game you guys faced adversity, and you showed, all of you showed that when times are tough, you guys could pick yourselves up and you could win. You could win games even when you're behind. And great teams, David, know how to win when they're ahead, and they know how to win when they're behind.
Yeah. I would say in the Bloomfield game and in the Holy during the week before we played Holy Cross, coach was saying how we're gonna get a defensive touchdown. We're gonna get a defensive touchdown. Like, if things fall apart on offense, we need to step up big on defense. So, for me, getting that strip sack for a touchdown against Holy Cross really like changed momentum for in that game, and we really just like we're up since that. And then in the Bloomfield game, being down a touchdown coming out from halftime, we really like I was telling the guys on the field, I was like, we got to make a stop. We got to get a turnover. We ended up forcing them like 3-and-out multiple times, and we still couldn't convert on offense until um, we made plays on defense and then got the ball back and things started to happen. We just kept playing.
Right. And I think about the Naugatuck game too, David, because that touchdown right before the half was
Yeah.
huge because Naugatuck was ahead 10-0,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean you guys stopped them on a big. I think it was a big third down. They tried to draw you guys off sides. You guys didn't bite, and they ended up kicking a field goal. But that was a great defensive stance there. And then
Yeah.
when you get that touchdown right before the half, I really felt in the second half that you guys were going to pull away from them because I felt like they had their chance in the first half. They didn't take advantage, and you guys really just took off in that second half.
Yeah. Going into the locker room at halftime, we knew we loved the position we were in. Like coming within a few points, getting that touchdown. Like we loved the position we were in. We made a few adjustments, but really we just like we knew we had to take advantage of every opportunity in the second half, and we knew like we were going to shut them down.
Right. So, David, another game too that was kind of tough for you guys. And again, second half you pulled away, but I mean the Seymour game was tough as well. But
Yeah,
let me ask you, David, when you have tough games like that and you're behind and then you guys come back, I bet it makes you appreciate this championship even more because you saw that it was not easy, but you guys knew how to fight through it. And I think like that to me, this makes this championship that much special for you guys because you guys, didn't always dominate, but you always knew how to get it done when you had to.
yeah, that Seymour game. It was really close in the first half, and the second half we just kind of just had to like I don't know. We just had to keep doing our thing. We made a few adjustments on the offensive line standpoint. We missed a few blocks. Um, like even in the Bloomfield game, like we were one block away from scoring. Well, I think I got horse collared, but just we were missing a few blocks on offense, and we weren't really communicating on defense against Seymour in the first half. So we had to just adjust, and it was a really emotional win after we won against Seymour because like we fought hard. It was really close at first, and there were a lot of emotional wins during the season, from Holy Cross to Naugatuck and of course Bloomfield because like we did it.
Right. And David, I when I've had Coach Sponheimer on my show, I always talk to him about the times they had to play Derby twice back in the 70s. And that could not have been fun because it's hard beating them once. And then to try to beat them twice isn't easy. And it was kind of reminiscent this year when you guys played Woodland because
Yeah.
Woodland played you very tough the first game. You guys got it done. And then the second game, I mean, they were up again at the half. And again, Ansonia comes out in the second half and dominates. But I mean, how hard was that having to play that same team twice? Because you know how hard it is to beat them once and then to do it twice. I mean, is awesome. But I mean, going through it, is it a pain sometimes?
Yeah, we knew coming into the playoff game, they weren't the same team they were week 2. We knew that they were going to make plays, and we just had to stay up. We knew they were going to be more physical against our run. But we just embrace the opportunity and playing them the second time, like because we know we can get it done. We've done it before, but we couldn't take them lightly. Obviously, they're a great team, but it was really fun.
Right. And think about the senior year that you had on an individual level, David. I mean, you 2,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. I mean, you had quite a few touchdown passes as well. Then you think of the championship game, you had 171 yards, you had a touchdown pass. So I mean, that senior year, never mind just winning games. I mean, the contribution that you made to that team this year is unbelievable. And no matter what happens down the road, like as far as the next level of football you play, when you walk the town of Ansonia, I mean, people are always going to remember you as one of the great Ansonia football players of all time, and they're always going to remember the 21st championship. So just talk about your season and on an individual sense.
Yeah. Coming into the season, I envisioned myself having a big year. So did most of my family members, because of the hard work I put in the off season for like 9 months straight. Um, I barely saw like my family a lot because I would come home late and I would just like eat, go to bed, or if I had work, I'd go to work. But I envisioned myself having a big season and whatever happened, whether it was us not winning a state championship or like not. But that was our main goal as a team. We didn't bring it up during the season at all. We didn't bring up winning a championship at all. But I would say I envisioned myself, and I think like I had a pretty good year.
Yeah, and I mean that has to make you feel good because at the same time, you of course you want to win and you want to. It's always about the team first, but it's important for any kid. He wants to achieve. He wants to get goals in his athletic career, his academic career. So the year that you had was tremendous. So I mean, you have to be proud in those 2 years you had because in over 2 years, I think you had over 3,000 yards, over 50 touchdowns, and I think 2 years in a row, you had over 80 tackles each season. So, I mean, the body of work is tremendous.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much summed it up.
Right. And David, I want to bring up this pick because it's interesting when you look at this because look at the number that you're wearing and who would think when you were a little kid that number would come into play your senior year. But just talk about, that championship and what it felt like to win that day because that's impressive that your number was 21 back then.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy, because I did send that picture to my family group chat 2 days ago. I was telling my dad, I was like, we have to recreate this pick on Saturday at the parade because I was wearing number 21 in that picture, and 9 years later, winning the 21st title and having parade, like we have to take a picture. Like it's it's cool. I mean, it's crazy.
Right. So talk to me what it felt like, David, because I mean, a lot of times you're playing the game and you've got a job to do out there. So you can't always maybe savor the victories or enjoy them as much as you like. Because, I mean, when you beat a Holy Cross, you know you're going to play a Woodland or a Seymour down the road. So you're still thinking about, the next game. But talk to me about what it was like when you guys took that knee, you knew the game was over, and you just ran on the field and celebrated. Because, I mean, it had to give you goosebumps.
Yeah, it was. I definitely did get goosebumps, but it was more of like a sigh of relief. That we finally did it, and we brought it back to Ansonia because um, it's been a long time since the championship. I mean, since 2016, and I feel like this is Titletown. If we don't win a state championship almost every year, like it doesn't feel normal at all. Like last year didn't feel normal. Like I kind of felt embarrassed losing, and it was just I don't know. It's surreal. I'm still letting everything sink in. Like it doesn't feel real.
Right. And let me ask you, David, I mean, a lot of times, like last year for the senior class, the Cromwell lost. They knew their season was over. They knew this was it, and their sadness. You guys won that championship game. You're all excited. So, I mean, you probably weren't really able to sit back and say, wow, this was my last high school football game. But as a few days have passed now, I mean, is there a little sadness? Because I know you're excited to go to the next level, but it's got to be bittersweet as well because it's come to an end.
Yeah. I would say I not at all. Like after that game, I didn't really realize it was my last ever high school game. And yeah, I would say it is bittersweet, but I'm happy it happened. I'm not sad at all that it's over. I'm more happy like that it happened and like everything happened. Um, I feel like I didn't really get the chance to like have a full 4 years of like Ansonia High School and like have and playing football. So it's like, I mean, I just, I'm ready for the next level. I'm excited.
Right. So let me ask you, I know you haven't really decided yet. I mean, but the goal is to play football in college, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like to me you embrace any challenge that comes your way. And you're not going to be, I mean, you'll be a little nervous. Obviously, it's something new. But if it seems like to me you're ready for it and you're not going to let anything hold you back.
No, definitely. As soon as the new year hits, I'm getting right back to work, training, and just gonna announce my commitment eventually. Looking at a few schools, and I'm really ready to compete my freshman year.
Right. So let me ask you, David, how excited are you for this parade Saturday? Because I really feel like you and your teammates need to enjoy that, have as much fun as you can, because all the hard work that you put in, especially this season, because it was a grind this season, you
Mm.
guys should just sit back and really, embrace it. You should have your phones out recording the crowd and just seeing all these great memories that you're going to make on Saturday. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I've been to, I mean, two parades, but it's gonna be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it and like seeing everyone in Ansonia, all the fans, all like the older alumni and just everyone there. It's gonna be really fun.
Right. So, David, before we go, just tell me like what you would like to say to the Ansonia fans, to your teammates, coaches, because I mean, I know it's a family in this town, no matter who it is. So, just tell me what you'd like to say to them before you go.
Yeah, the success of the season wouldn't have really happened if it wasn't for the great players we have and the great coaching staff we have, from Coach Bonheimer to Coach Brockett, um, and the community and all the fans. Like without them, this season wouldn't have happened with their support. Without their support, so really, really want to thank them. And I had a really great season, like a good time.
Well, David, I appreciate you giving me a few minutes today. First off, congratulations on a great career because your
Thank
career was unbelievable and it was so much fun to watch you. And second off, congratulations on this championship because, I mean, listen, you're part of a group now, you and your teammates. You're part of a long list of championship teams in Ansonia, and you guys are always going to be Team 21 no matter what. When they talk about that 21st championship, your name and your teammates' names are always going to be linked to it. So congratulations on getting that championship. And I mean, you guys were a lot of fun to watch, and you guys really were a team. And that's what it stood out to me watching you guys is this was a team and this team earned it. So congratulations and thank you again
thank you,
for coming on.
thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. You just got to know David Cassetti. You saw that pick, and I'll bring it up again right now. I mean, who would ever think that when he was a little 9 or 10-year-old kid that he'd be playing for championship 21 as a senior? But just look at the body of work by this young man. I talked about the 3,000 yards, 2,000 in a season, over 30 touchdowns in a season, over 50 for a career, which is just unbelievable. This young man has dedicated himself so much to be the best he could be. And every game, when opponents came to play Ansonia, they knew they had to stop a lot of kids, but they knew they really had to stop Cassetti. And most of the time they failed because he was that good of a player. And this Ansonia team, you got to applaud them for the work they did this year because they really were a team. And David Cassetti's leadership is a big reason why that team was so successful. You heard him just say that more than anything else, he would not be here today without the great teammates, the great coaches he had. And he really understands what it means to be a great player because being a great player isn't about stats. It's about doing everything right on and off the field. And this young man has done that throughout his entire career. We can't wait to see what the future holds for this tremendous individual because I have to believe that he's going to continue to make great memories. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.